Hello and welcome to your weekly podcast from Freestyle Media in partnership with the Magic 5. And you can get 15% off a pair of their custom fit goggles by using the affiliate link in the description to this episode. I'm also keen to promote the work of Nathan Oxford of Oxalt Strength and Conditioning. Nathan is a swimmer himself, and you'll have probably heard from him before. He's been on the podcast a few times. He likes working with swimmers to put together tailored programs so that you can get fitter, faster, and stronger. So you can check out his stuff at www.oxalt.com or follow him on social media. Right, but this week I'm joined by two-time Olympian and three-time Commonwealth swimmer Ross Murdoch. So thanks for coming on the podcast, Ross.
Thanks very much for having us. Buzzing to be here.
No, thank you. It's a real pleasure. And of course, it's been a year-ish since your retirement. And I know that you've just obviously recently launched Murdoch Coaching, which is obviously what we want to talk about here. And that's a new thing. So a year on retiring, is this something you've been thinking about for a while, or have you just completely had a break and then it's quite a new thing?
So it is kind of something I've been thinking about for a while. I've always enjoyed coaching. I've always enjoyed whether it was swim coaching or anything other things like that, like S&C. I've always been quite passionate about that stuff, and in my own life, like while I was swimming. But when I initially had my first retirement, I say it was soft retirement in December 21. I needed just an extended break from swimming. And during that time, I was thinking about, what it was I was going to do, because I was pretty adamant I wasn't going to go back to swimming at the time. And I was like, but I need to find something to put my energy into, so I obviously had to stay fit and healthy, doing my own exercise and things, but it wasn't, I had to find something else to do. And it came at a time as well where I'd just lost my funding to continue in sport. So I was looking at ways that, I could get myself through the rest of my degree, because I was still doing my masters at the time as well. So this sort of idea of online coaching and things like that sort of came up, and I know quite a few sort of online PTs, and I spoke to a couple of people about it, and they were like, it's very rewarding, there's a lot of opportunity in it, you get to help people generally, and that's something that I've always been quite passionate about, is helping people and supporting them through like their own challenges and towards their own goals and things like that. But the idea of just being a personal trainer has never really appealed to me. Like, there's definitely places for it, but it's never really, it doesn't really kick me up the arse, so to speak, like to get me out of bed in the morning. So I kind of parked the idea and just left it sort of ticking, rolling over in the background. So yeah, I would say that it's been in my mind for well over a year, probably 18 months to 2 years, something like that's kind of been in the back of my mind thinking about that.
No, it's interesting, and something else. Obviously, having been a full-time swimmer and obviously competing on the highest stage, you would have had to have had a proper athlete's mindset throughout. I mean, not all athletes do. I can think of a few. I don't want to name and shame them, but not everybody kind of takes it too seriously. They just happen to be very, very good at their sport.
Yeah.
But you'd imagine most athletes really do take it seriously. It comes with the job. Even just small things like getting to bed on time, not hitting snooze too many times, I guess, on the alarm morning, and pre-pool, things like that. Things that I guess, I'm a master swimmer. I don't do pre-pool, because I don't have to. So I don't push myself to it, but I'm sure that you would have thought of the benefit. So having probably had that mindset yourself, this is probably an idea, I guess, that's been bubbling a long time because you feel passionate about it yourself.
Yeah, totally. So sort of the athlete mindset, I mean, I'm not entirely sure who coined the quote, but it was like, the mind is the athlete, the body's the means, effectively, and that's the way that I've always tried to look at it. I mean, when I looked at it, and I do a lot of thinking, and there was one time I was thinking about it, and I was watching quite a bit of F1 at the time. It's probably about 9 years ago or so, and I was looking at it, and I just imagined, like, I think one of my first coaches, Rob Greenwood, he spoke about, before a race, what do? You warm up and then you come out the pool. Why aren't you putting a t-shirt on? Like, why aren't you putting clothes on and stuff? And I was like, I don't know why. And he's like, well, imagine your limbs are like the wheels of an F1 car. What do they do before they put the F1 car on the track? Well, the wheels are wrapped up and they've got heated blankets on them and everything like that. Like, they're putting that in, and you're letting all this heat get out your muscles. You're letting all this. So when we'd had that conversation, it kind of brought me, give me a little thinking point on it, and that's where I started imagining like my body being like the F1 car effectively, and then the mind being the driver, or the pilot, or whatever other sort of story you want to put in there, analogy that you want to use. So, and broadly speaking, it was the athlete is the mind, and the body's purely the means. It's kind of where that the quote comes from. So it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. Is that idea and the development of that idea. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting as well because there's always the obvious things, isn't there, with performance? One being training, one
Mhm.
being like nutrition and rest. But actually, it's all those little small details like why aren't you putting a t-shirt on that
Yeah.
you may not have thought about before. And this literally can apply to it to any athlete, any swimmer, anyone in life. It's those little
Mhm.
details often that take you from being somebody who partakes in the sport and maybe
Mhm.
takes it seriously to actually being somebody that really has that athlete's mindset.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, the athlete's mindset, it kind of applies to, you know, everything. So when you look at an athlete's life, people generally only see it, once a year or once every 4 years. If it's an Olympic sport, people don't tend to pay much attention. I know in the UK, obviously the Commonwealth Games is massive, but even other Commonwealth nations within that, like it's not even that big a deal to some people. So generally it's a once every 4 year sport, which is really unfortunate because the amount of work and stuff that goes into swimming for a race that lasts, sometimes less than 30 seconds. Um, you know, it's incredible actually. So I think an athlete's mindset is looking at little 1% every single day that for a goal that's 4 years ahead of time. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's every day looking for fractions and fractions and fractions of a percent, just trying to find something to hold on to, something positive for that day. Sometimes there's nothing positive that happens, yet you've
Mm.
still got to find something to hang on to that day. Like, okay, I guess that's where then you start practicing gratitude, and you're like, well, maybe I didn't get that session done today the way that I wanted. Maybe I hurt my shoulder again, or whatever it was. But actually, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and to learn from it, and to have a bit of personal development, personal growth, and to work on something that you truly love to do.
Mm.
Which I think is something that I was blessed with to do swimming for so long. I did truly enjoy it, and we talk about who has an athlete mindset, and hopefully everybody does. And but I would be lying if I said I always had one. It's something
Yeah.
that I had to work quite hard on, and there was times where swimming came to me and it was just a job. It was one of those things where it was just like it was a hobby that got out of hand to me. I didn't know how I got to where I was. It was a really challenging thing. It was like one minute I was this wee guy from Alexandria in Scotland, and the next thing I know, I was winning the Commonwealth Games. It was literally there was about 3 years between it, and when you're 20 years old, 3 years feels like a long time. But you look back at it, and you're totally just thrust into this life that you had no comprehension of. So it took me a long time to sort of be satisfied with being an athlete and to feel like I was
Mm.
equipped to actually construct a performance every year. Because ultimately, that's what I had to do. Is I had to do a performance one year, go away, have a couple of weeks off, and then come back and reconstruct another one for the following year, and try and get my funding and try and constantly justifying my position within the world. Um, so I think it's a difficult thing to have. It's a difficult thing to develop, but it's certainly achievable for anyone. Absolutely achievable for anyone, and there's so much reward to come from it. My general feelings is, if you can, you mentioned snoozing the alarm clock there. It's a lot of times it's the little things that really make the difference. Like that, it's like getting up in the morning. What's the first thing that you do? Snooze, or do you get up and make your bed? You get up, you make your bed. It's almost like military sometimes. The way that I eventually came to, I eventually started looking into small habits that I felt that would be, although technically it doesn't make a difference to my swimming performance if I make my bed every morning, but you know, I seen a video on YouTube, and it was a guy, it was an old admiral or something like that talking about it, and he was like, see, even if you have the worst day of your life and nothing good's happened, you're going to come home to a made bed. And I was
Yeah.
like, it's just little things and finding little things to hang on to, and little challenges throughout the day, little daily non-negotiable tasks, I think, are the things that help you develop that athlete mindset.
Yeah, I agree. I can sort of relate to that, but it's not a sporting mindset, I suppose. It's more of a setting standards. When we first went into
Sure.
lockdown and I was working from home, I'd never worked from home before, and
Mhm.
I told myself non-negotiable. I never sit there in my joggers or my trackies.
Uh,
I put my jeans on every day or some proper trousers, dress as I would dress if I'm going to
mhm.
the office. I've never let myself, even to this day, sort of what 3.5 years on from the first lockdown,
Yeah.
never let myself sit here in trackies when I'm working.
Yeah.
And now that obviously offices have been open for a few years now, I
Mhm.
never let myself do 2 days in a row at home because I find home working works well for me if it's something that I do for one day and then I'm in the
Mhm.
office the next day. But I never let myself do 2 days in a row because that's when I feel my motivation dropping. So it's setting those little standards.
Mhm.
And sometimes it feels quite boring. And I think it's just want to go back to what you were saying about the 1%, and a
Mhm.
lot of those things probably are quite boring, like the pre-pool and I mean, there's so many things that I'm sure we'll come on to talk about, all the little things, and a lot of them might
Yeah.
feel, but I guess it's about trying to make them feel fun in a way, and
Yeah.
trying to create that cultivate that mindset of actually this is exciting doing all these little things because this is the end goal.
Sure. Yeah, I think there is a really big challenge in that, trying to make the little things seem exciting. Um, and if you can get excited about those little things, those monotonous, boring things, that's where a lot of really positive growth can come from. Getting excitement and motivation and that sort of energy inside you just to tackle the same thing that you did yesterday. Like, I don't think there's anything more rewarding than that, and that's where the real growth comes from. Being able to just turn up day after day after day, and just do the same exercises, do the same things, back and forward. It does get boring, it does get monotonous, and it will take its toll. And not every day you'll have that motivation, but there in itself lies the athlete mindset. Turning up day after day after day, doing the same things over and over again, and just finding a way to do that, and that's ultimately what gets you to you know two Olympic Games. It's just turning up every single day, and just there's no question that is a non-negotiable for me. I have to go to training.
Mm.
I have to do my pre-pool. There's certain exercises. I didn't do pre-pool every day.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not a robot. There was times where I was like, maybe my motivation lacked, and I definitely let myself down in certain aspects of my professional career. But nobody can be 100% on all the time. And part of it's learning to forgive yourself for the human element as well, and understanding that there's a human element of it all.
Mm.
But it's still you still always have to come back to it, and come back to just doing the monotonous things day after day after day. And when you do those things, it helps you find a lot of joy in other areas of your life as well, because you know it simplifies your life. It simplifies it. Like, if I'm going to go to the pool, this is what I need to do. If I'm going to eat meals, I know exactly what meals I like to make for the different types of week I have. If I've got 2 weeks on and then a week of regeneration, I know exactly what I'm going to eat pretty much in advance. Like, I don't plan it to the T, but I've got a bank of meals that I like to make that are set. So it doesn't matter whether it was in the pool, or if it was nutrition, or if it was you know mindfulness. Thinking about my races, or whatever. It was breaking things down in time to time. These were all little things that you know were potentially one percenters, potentially very boring, but they're the most rewarding parts of the sport and of the athlete mindset.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like what you said as well about you weren't a robot, and I guess that's what all of this is about.
Mm,
Really, it's about creating an athlete's mindset. It's not about being perfect.
yeah.
But I'm interested to know. You talked about your soft retirement, your
Hmm.
original December 2021, and obviously you came back,
Hmm.
in force for the commies. Let's be honest. You did fantastic. It was a pleasure to watch you. Um, was one of the reasons why you came back because and maybe you didn't literally think like this at the time, but ultimately you're an athlete and you've developed
Hmm.
this athlete's mindset largely because you have to, but also because clearly you're passionate about it. And did you suddenly find that without your sport, all of a sudden you're like, what am I going to do with all this athlete's mindset that I've got? And then did that kind of draw you back in?
Yeah, I think it did actually. I think that's pretty much the nail on the head. Um, so to tell to tell the kind of full story, I'd obviously taken that time away. I was still at university trying to work myself, to the bone in terms of I started a CrossFit gym. Like I love lifting, I love Olympic lifting, and I love circuits. So it's kind of the perfect combination, really. So I was working with a CrossFit gym, Forth Valley CrossFit, and they were a fantastic group of guys. Great group of people to train with. Really enjoyed it. But I would do that. That was an hour of my day. Where I'm used to training
all day.
4-5 hours a day. You know, 2 2 hour sessions in the pool, an hour of gym,
Yeah.
possibly physio on top of that. Whether I was meeting the physiologist to look at skin folds, or nutritionist to look at my nutrition strategies going through competition. It was never ending with the amount of time that you could put into this stuff. So you take away that, and all you've got is an hour a day really of training, and then you've got 23 hours of the day that you can be doing your uni work. I actually just found that because I had so much time, nothing got done. It was one of those, it's such a, like, it's oxymoron that, you've got all the time in the world to do anything that you want and just nothing gets done. So I found that actually my life suffered even more. So I think there's a real plague sometimes among athletes, because I went full time as an athlete for a long time, and I found that, oh yeah, but if I wasn't an athlete, I'd have all this time to do my uni work. How easy would it be to get, a first class degree if you had all this time in the day? Like, you'd moan about students or whatever going on nights out and, whatever else. But at the end of the day, it was like, it's challenging having all that time, and it's balancing that time properly. So I found my life suffered, and I really found getting projects over the line to a standard that I was satisfied with challenging, or more challenging than it was when I was training. And I was really stubborn actually about going back to sport, because I was like, I don't want to take the soft option. I don't want to be soft about this. I don't want to go back unless that I know that it's the right decision for me. And eventually, I came round to it, and I went and asked to come back, and you know, I'm very lucky that I was very well supported through my coaches and stuff. And automatically, as soon as I went back, my life just kind of started to change, and my whole mentality changed with it as well. And you know, part of me wishes I'd done it a lot sooner, and then maybe I'd have got a couple extra years out my career. Because last year, I think, having had that wee bit of time off, and then having had the sort of the downtime in that 11 weeks, and letting sort of my personal life suffer, my education suffer, my fitness suffer, having had those little bits, I came at it with this new intensity to all of it, which obviously ultimately I got 3 bronze medals at the Commie Games, in a results that I didn't expect, and a distinction in my dissertation at the end of the year, which I ended up writing on life skills, life skill development, and the development of those life skills within like athletic careers. So it was one of those things that kind of, the retirement informed a whole bunch of things for me, and it ended up informing the rest of that year, and just coming at it with a new, like, sort of ruthless intensity to it all.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and obviously congratulations as well on your
Cheers.
and your master's degree. Sounds really good. So I'm interested to know then. So with everything that you've kind of experienced and learned, and now you've obviously launched Murdoch Coaching.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's still a lot for you to work out in your head in terms of what you want it to look and feel like, and every person that you work with, every athlete that you work with is going to be
Mhm.
different. They're going to need slightly different things. The approach might need to be slightly different. But can you kind of just give us an example of, if I literally were to come to you now and say, I
Sure.
want to work with you and develop this athlete's mindset, how would you begin working with me?
Sure. So, I mean, basically, looking at it from the real objective standpoint, like as a performance lifestyle practitioner, there's what it is you're what, and I'm not claiming to be a full time performance lifestyle practitioner of any sorts, but it's an area that I'm interested in, and through sort of that personal training element, that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve. So initially, what I'd be looking at would be to work out, what does your life look like right now? How satisfied are you with the amount of time that you have with the time that, what are you achieving with the time that you've got, and how can we make the time work best for you, and achieving that balance and sustainability between your sort of professional and personal life. So one of the real big areas of that I found very beneficial was the idea of like supporting a dual career.
Yeah.
So you don't just have one career. You've got, whether for me personally, it was, here's my swimming career, and also then here's my education, here's my university. How do I balance these two and excel in them both with the time constraints that I've got? And it was that I found really beneficial. So that's ultimately what I'll be working towards. I'll be working out, what are your time constraints? What are the things that are important to you right now? What are your non-negotiables as it stands? And then how do we plan? How do we then develop a direction? So we need to kind of establish a direction on exactly where it is that you want to go. What are the goals? Is it professional goals? Is it personal goals? Is it sporting goals? It doesn't matter what it is. These are things that are very personal to you. So it'd be trying to work out exactly what does that look like. So establishing that direction and the goals. What available resources do you have in terms of your gym membership? Do you have access to a pool, to a track? Is it CrossFit that you're interested in? Sort of then, I guess, any long-term injuries or reoccurring injuries, things that are blockages to your actual, sporting opportunities, really, I guess. So those would be the types of things that I would be interested to know, like, what does your life look like right now, and that. And then, we can delve deeper into that as well, looking more like, how do you typically start your day, is a really big thing that I'm interested in. We touched on it a little bit already.
Yeah.
Are you a snoozer? Do you wake up in the morning and you immediately think, right, I need coffee right now, otherwise it's not going to work for me, or are you the type of person that gets out of bed and goes straight out a run, or do you like walking with a podcast, or do you have a dog? What are like your general like morning routine? Like, do you have a routine? Is there a routine in place, or is you just kind of off the cuff, just kind of flying as you go, where the wind takes you type stuff? And there's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions, I think, which is really important to know as well. It's not like I'm looking for faults, or I'm like picking holes in people and think I was an athlete, so I'm better than you because this and that. It's like there's no right or wrong answers to any of this, and I think that's the most important thing to understand. And once you kind of get sort of the lowdown or the circumstances of your life as it stands right now, and the satisfaction you feel from it, it's like, well, how do you want to move forward? What is it you want to achieve? And my sort of philosophy on life is, you want fulfillment from your life, and I think that you get fulfillment from having consistency over your day-to-day routine and control over your life. So I think that can lead to fulfillment. And the way that my athlete mindset takes me is, if I can measure something, I can monitor it, and if I can measure it and monitor it, that'll give me control. So then if I then take that control over my life and times it by consistency, that will give me the fulfillment in my life. Is that generally the way that I looked at it? So taking that into the workplace, you need to turn up to work every single day, but then it's how you're turning up. Like, what time did you turn up? What did you achieve that day? Did you set a to-do list? These are all things that you can take to measure. Like, these are all little measurements you take, and then you look back at it, you reflect on it, monitor it. That gives you more control, and you can see where did I achieve this week? Where did I lack? And then doing this over and over and over again, that's going to lead to even like that consistency of the control that you've got. That's going to give you the more fulfillment. So that's the kind of my philosophy on it. And I believe that you can get that sort of consistency and control in the professional area of your life through exercise, through being disciplined every single day. So waking up every morning, out of bed first thing, make the bed, and what you're going to do now, right? If you need a coffee, perfect. Let's grab a coffee and let's get out and take the step count up. When I was on my first retirement, I was living with my brother at the time. He was living with me, and he was like, right, you need to get out in the morning. And actually, I learned a lot from him through this because he was working full time and doing all this already.
Yeah.
And he was like, right, come on, get your stuff on. We're going out a walk, and we'd go out a walk, and we'd walk for an hour every morning. Throughout that January, and I found that to be a really productive start to my day, and I had some of the most unique thoughts that I've ever had during that time. And one of the thoughts that was was having this recurring dream, and I think this is ultimately where this sort of idea of getting control and trying to help other people get control of their life comes from. Is I was having this recurring dream, and I'd be sitting in the back of a car, and I was just looking out at the world going by, and it was like beautiful scenery and stuff. And then I would look into the front seat, and no one was driving, and the car was completely out of control. And I was like, panic. And I was trying to get into the front, but the seatbelt was tight, and it was doing that thing when you try and jump out the seat and the seatbelt locks. And I was just stuck in the back of this car. And then you would have one of those wake ups where you jump and you'd panic. Your heart rate was through the roof. And throughout these walks in the January, I was like, I don't actually feel in control of my own life, and that was such a negative thought. And I was like, it was a negative thought, but actually it was very productive. And it gave me a lot of perspective on what it was I wanted, and that's ultimately what informed me to go back to sport. Was when I had a set routine, I knew what I was doing every day. There was things that were non-negotiable to me, like training, like eating. You can't go on a night out. You can't go out, because if you go out for 2 pints, you're staying out for 10. You can't do it. Everything became non-negotiable. There were certain standards that I had to hit every single day, and through those standards, I stopped having the dream of not driving my own car. And the idea of driving your own car is ultimately the goal for everyone. You want to be in control of your life. So ultimately it's going to be sort of goal orientated program that's exercise driven.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and the fact that you've obviously gone through some struggles as well has really informed you to be able to deliver a sort of a coaching program to people. Because if you were somebody who had a plain sailing career, you
Mm-hmm.
loved it, motivation wasn't a problem for you. Believe me, there are some freaks that exist out there where motivation
Oh,
isn't.
there is.
I'm certainly not one of them. But if you kind of never had that adversity, if you were then faced with working with somebody who has that adversity, and
Mm-hmm.
they really want to, let's talk about, a swimmer, for example, a master swimmer, or a junior
Mm-hmm.
swimmer, an age group swimmer, should I say, somebody who, they're not going to the Olympics, but they really want to hit that PB in October. They really want to hit it in January.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a problem getting up in the morning and going training because they just don't feel like it or whatever. And
Sure.
at least now you can relate to that. And so I feel like you've lived the life of what it takes to set the standards and
Yeah.
to do repetitive things and to do the 1%. But you've also lived the life of the complete opposite, where you've needed to get in that front seat and take control again of your car. And so I think the blend of the two things is brilliant. What I also think is great here is that you're working with people, or you will be working with people who are willing. And ultimately, that's what you need, isn't it? If people
Yeah.
are signing up to your program, the chances are they are athletes of sort as well, whether it's a swimmer or somebody else. They're wanting to improve. They're wanting to improve their structure or
Sure.
make better use of their time. So I think you're really onto something, to be honest. I think it's going to be good. And are you looking to work mostly with swimmers, or are you open to working with any athlete or anyone?
Yeah, I'm open to working with anyone pretty much. I think working with swimmers is great. Swimming is a passion of mine, and it will always be something that's close to my heart. And when someone speaks to me about swimming, and I feel like my eyes light up when I talk about it. It's one thing that I really I really enjoyed about last year was I kind of went from not loving sport back to loving swimming again, and really feeling that. But to be honest, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's something that transcends sport altogether. So it's not just cross sport. It's anything. So if you're not interested in you know one sport in particular, there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to work together. I wouldn't think, but I think you're bang on the money. It's people who want to make a change, people who want a difference, and that's the type of people that you want to work with, because
Yeah.
that's inspiring to me. And that's what's going to bring the best energy from me as well, is working with people day to day who want to be better.
Mm.
That's inspiring to everybody.
Yeah.
So it's it would be anybody, and it'd be great to have, a community of people who just want to be better. I think that's incredible, and I think it's something we really lack in the world these days, because everything's done online. You know, Having organic conversation like this is something that not a lot of people do anymore, and it's something that I really value, and it's something that I really want to try and help with, is developing that sort of organic conversation, a bit of a sense of community, and you know, let's try and help each other be better. Let's get better at what we do. Um,
Mm.
that's really what it is, and I don't think it matters if it's you know a professional swimmer that's wanting to go to an Olympic Games, a masters swimmer that's doing it because they love it,
Yeah.
or somebody who doesn't swim at all, someone who wants to do something else. I don't think it. To me, it doesn't matter, as long as the person wants to be better, and they're looking for that support to be better. I want to be the person that can support them to you know the goals that they want and the things that they want to achieve.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I'm interested to know if when you were a full-time athlete, did you have somebody that you could speak to about these things? Did you have kind of a performance coach or a mindset coach, or was Scottish Swimming offering something? Kind of generally speaking, was there somebody that you could turn to?
Yeah, I've been very, very fortunate actually in the sort of mentors that I've had over the years. I've had benefited from some really, really great swim coaches. Um, you know, the last three coaches that I've had, Rob Greenwood, Ben Higson, and Stephen Tigg. Well, Stephen Tigg and Brad Hay, working in conjunction together. Like those guys, I've learned so much about myself through working with all of them. So I found, just day to day working with these guys in the pool, was really beneficial. But then looking out with that, looking at the support staff that I've had access to. I spoke about performance lifestyle. I've had some really good performance lifestyle advisors, Brown Ferguson and Chris Volley, more recently, who I'm still friends with and still talk to today. There's some really interesting people, and psychologists as well. One of my psychologists back in the day is a guy called Misha Botting. Such an interesting guy. He danced at the Bolshoi School of Dance, for ballet in Moscow, and toured the world as a ballet dancer, and then moved into performance psychology. And I learned an awful lot from him, and it's something that I still carry through to today.
Mm.
The idea of being mindful and being present and being grateful, and these types of things, I think were massively impactful on me, and that kind of has informed not just me as an athlete, but it really has informed me as a person, and the lessons that I've taken from them, and stuff. It's something that I carry with me every day. It's something that I can't shake. When I wake up in the morning before I go to work, just now, it's still okay. What do I need to do? And it's you wake up and everything's plotted out in front of you. You have the same breakfast every day pretty much, and you try and run through as much of a routine as you can, working shifts. You try and work into a routine as best you can, and finding a way. So yeah, I've really benefited from a lot of really strong mentors, and people who, again, like you mentioned before, we're talking about allowing space to have your own unique thoughts and things. Um, I feel like everyone gave me the space that I needed to have those unique thoughts, but then also pressed at the right times to
Yeah.
be like, okay, right, you've had enough time. Let's make a decision. Let's decide how we're going to go forward. And that those types of mentors and leaders that I've had around me have been really second to none, I believe.
Mm. Something that I find interesting as well is because I've actually had career coaching as well. So
Ah,
it's not an athlete's mindset or anything like that. This was more to do with my career, but it's essentially a similar thing. And something that I learned a lot was, so having a career coach, or in your case having performance a mindset coach, is, as a coach, you don't just want people who feel like everything is desperate and they need a change.
mhm,
Because, yes, you're probably going to get a lot of people like that, which is great. But actually, it's also just as important, um, as the person on the other side. So when I was getting career coaching, it was important for me to still have career coaching when times were great, because
yeah,
actually when times were great and I was feeling good, I might sit there and say everything's brilliant. I don't want to make any changes.
mhm,
However, suddenly you're in a positive mindset, you're in a positive space, and you start coming up with great ideas. And then you just elevate everything that you've kind of already got in your life, and
Yeah,
you suddenly think, oh my god, I can do this and this, that, and the other now, and so you can still get so much from coaching, even when you're in a good space. And I think that's something that's really that you'll find really important as well, is that it's not
yeah,
just about working with those people who are like, oh my god, I need to make changes, everything's going wrong.
sure.
It'll be working with those really positive people as well, because you can just really elevate them to another level.
Yeah, I think surrounding yourself with positive people as well is one of the things that will elevate everybody. You know, you really are a product of your environment. And you know, the more people that you surround yourself with positively will certainly impact on your life and it will impact each other. You know, I think definitely when things start to go well, you know, you almost think that it's a going concern, and you know, it's just going to look after itself. And to speak candidly about my own career again, because I guess I can only ever speak from my own experiences. Um, you know, but you know, I think it's one place where I felt sort of let down sometimes in sport was when things were going well. You know, oftentimes you think that success breeds success, and you know, if you're successful, then you must feel fulfilled, you must feel happy. And it's a narrative that isn't unique to me. It's something that comes across pretty much anyone who's been successful in anything. That's, you know, once you achieve that success, it's great for a time, and you sort of rest on it a little bit, and then you realize that, you know, that success wasn't exactly what was bringing you happiness, and achieving, you know, a medal at the end of the day isn't what brings you happiness. And it's the consistency and the journey and the people that you meet along the way. It's very cliche, but it is the truth. I'll stand by it. I remember thinking at 18 years old, listening to someone speak one time and going, "Oh, it's all about the journey. It's about this and that," and just going, "Shut up." But you know, 11 years, 12 years down the line, it really is. That's the thing that gets you up in the morning, and thinking any differently I didn't find productive. So I think having people who are in a positive frame of mind, it's again, it's just reflecting back, and then also then how do we move forward. You need to sort of always thinking about moving forward, generating those ideas, reflecting, finding gratitude in times of toughness, and just trying to be better. That continual improvement is the thing that will ultimately bring the fulfillment and bring the happiness in your life. And I think I obviously people who are in a negative space, you know, they need the support. But in my own personal opinion, it's people who have been successful that can oftentimes be the most lost.
Yeah.
Who, you know, sometimes you don't know how you got to the success. Sometimes it just happens. You know, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to replicate it. Have you watched the Lewis Capaldi documentary?
No, I haven't actually.
Well, I recommend it. You know, whether you're a Lewis Capaldi fan or not, it's something that I found incredibly useful to think about, and I put it into my own life quite well. Actually, it's, you know, it's the idea of the second album. You know,
Yes.
he spoke about the first one, and you know, the way that he speaks in this documentary is incredible, and it's something that I think everybody can learn from. It's the idea of the second album. So the first one just kind of happened. It was an overnight success, and you know, it was US #1 type stuff, and then you know, the pressure that gets applied on to repeat that success. How do you repeat that again?
Mm.
Um, I thought it was such an interesting thought and such an interesting process that he goes through. And obviously, look at the success he's having right now. It's a process that successful people in any place go through, whether it's sport. Again, like I said, it transcends sport. It's in the music industry as well, and it can't just be between sport and music.
Yeah.
It's got to be across everywhere. Um, it's the idea of the second album, that the next performance. How do you repeat what you've done?
Mhm.
And it's a stressful time, but I think everybody does need the support through that. So yeah, it's both those who are completely motivated and those who aren't so motivated. It's definitely across the board.
I think as well it's the idea of you've said there, how do you repeat success? I think it's also about how do you reinvent yourself, because you know, I mean, for example, I'm 31 now. I've got a job. I
Hmm.
like swimming, whatever. In 10 years' time, I might not want to keep doing the same things. I might want to do some things that are slightly different, or do things in different ways. So I think it's also about being able to have that creativity, and having a coach gives
Hmm.
you the platform and the space to think about, okay, so how can I reinvent myself, how can I
Hmm.
change the way that I do something, to kind of just refresh the whole situation, whatever it may be, whether it's your swimming training, your gym training, your
Mhm.
job, your whatever, your diet, what
Yeah.
change can I make to that? I think it's always, you've never cracked it ultimately, and I think you can crack it for a bit, and you'll kind of get success for a while,
Yeah.
and eventually you'll run out of juice, and you just kind of need
Mhm.
to find a new way to go again. So I think coaching for me is, when I had career coaching, it's something that I've come off the back of that now, thinking, well, that's not just a one-time thing for me. I'm going to dip in and out of this career coaching probably
Yeah.
for the rest of my life now, because there will always come a time where I just think, I just need a refresh, and so to go back to that person who helped bring me some more success first is really
Mhm.
important. I feel like you can go on a proper journey with these people. It's not just a case of
Yeah.
to sign up to 5 sessions and
Mhm.
you'll be sound, see you later, go and have a great
Mhm.
life. You're there for people when they need you, as I
Mhm.
say, the positive and the negative times, really.
Yeah.
And so it's I always, every time people talk about the you thinking the sort of the Olympic medal or the Commonwealth medal is the be all and end all. It always reminds me of Only Fools and Horses and
Right.
Del Boy, and when he eventually becomes a millionaire. Obviously, everybody, even those who haven't really watched it, I'm sure they've heard the quote, "This time next year we'll be millionaires," and that's his
Yeah.
drive every day. And then when he becomes a millionaire, it's a fantastic episode because he suddenly finds himself lost, and his brother Rodney's like, "What's up? This is what you always wanted." And he said, "Yeah, but
Yeah.
the chase has gone now. The
For
waking
sure.
up every day, the scheming, and the chasing. That was the exciting part." And I think I always resonate with that, because I think, yeah, it's even just in my life, I get a PB in the pool, and I think I want more now,
Yeah.
because actually I thought getting that time was, yeah, what I wanted, but actually now I want to go faster, and
Mhm.
it never ends.
Yeah. I think that is, that's such a great story as well. Like, I love little stories like that, and people finding the meaning, and I don't know if only Fools and Horses, but finding the same meanings in other things that have come before. Like, that's so interesting. It's fascinating. But yeah, it's that the idea of, like, sort of, to coin, Team GB. It's, better never stops. You
Yeah.
know, it is a never ending journey of constant self improvement. Um, and I think when you are in that area of self improvement, constantly challenging yourself and pushing yourself every day to come up with new ideas, and you got some success here. How do I repeat it? How do I reinvent myself to be, better than I was yesterday? Um, that's a place where enormous personal growth can come from.
Yeah.
And it's such an inspiring place to be. See, when you're surrounded by people like that, like, it's an area that I was quite scared of leaving sport. Is like, will I ever be surrounded by people who want to be better every single day ever
Yeah.
again? It's quite scary, and it's something that I have genuinely struggled with since, sort of leaving sport. Leaving, it's not just, you know the sport or the competition or the travel that you leave behind. It's the people that you surround yourself with, and having a community of people who always want to be better and just constant improvement. I think that's a really inspiring thing, and it's, again, I'll come back to it. I think it's something that we lack in the world, again, because everything's all online. There's
Yeah. Yeah, for
the
sure.
people are disposable. It's quite scary how disposable people are. Like, you want a new bird, you want a new boyfriend. Well, that's fine. Just patch them and go on Tinder or whatever it is. It's people can be disposable these days, and it's quite scary. So creating a community of people that want to be better, and who are ruthlessly devoted to themselves to just be better, whether that's reinventing or reinvesting or whatever it might be, whatever that looks like to you, that's inspiring. And
Mhm.
surrounding yourself in that environment, that's just an inspirational environment, I think that would be an incredible achievement, I think.
Completely agree. So how can people sign up and reach you? Is it through social media, or do you have a website, or what?
Yeah, so it would be primarily through social media at the moment. I think it's there's most people have some form of social media at the moment, and most people generally have an Instagram page as well. So it's a sort of a traditional model, I guess, for online coaching. Really, is sort of reaching out through social media, through Instagram. Really,
Yeah.
um, I've got a link tree in my bio that's sort of, it's got it's just a brief sort of lifestyle survey type thing that I've put together, where, it's sort of contact details so that I can stay in touch with you, and then also some brief questions looking at your life right now, and what do you have any goals, that type of stuff. So it kind of informs the first part of the conversation. So when we sit down on a call like this, it kind of informs the first part of the conversation, gives me a brief outline on who you are, what you're about, and where is it really that you want to go. And then from there we start a conversation and we see how we can move forward with it. So generally it would be through Instagram at the moment. And I am looking to open up some spots at some point soon to try and get people through the door and try and support them through to their own goals. Like, I do have a full-time job, again, like we kind of spoke about your podcast earlier on, and it's something that it's not like this is going to be my full-time job now. Like, it's something where I want to it's something that I want to sort of foster and start to grow a little bit. It's something that gets me out of bed in the mornings, the idea of helping people and supporting them. So that's what I want to be doing at the moment. And the spots will be limited to start because I do work full time and I've got limited time. So I'll be trying to balance my time as best I can. But I get enough time off during the week, and I get a few weekends off every few weeks, so that I've got enough time to be able to catch up with everyone. It's certainly a manageable project for me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to just to hear from people. I just want to start conversations, and let's see where we can go with it.
No, I think it's great. And what I'll also do is I'll put that link tree in the description to this episode as well, and a link to your Instagram page. So if anybody maybe doesn't have Instagram, they can still find the survey on the description to this, or they can find you very easily on Instagram anyway. But if not, use the link on the description to this, and you'll get straight there. So just want to really quickly kind of reflect on what was a brilliant career. I don't want to kind of obviously go too much into it really. We all know what a fantastic swimmer you are, but I just want to know what your favourite moment was really.
It's a really difficult thing to sort of pinpoint exactly what my favourite moment was. Obviously 2014 immediately springs to mind, with it being a home Commonwealth Games, and winning the Commonwealth Games there on my granddad's 70th birthday. Like, it's a story that for me and my family's very important. Like, I just had such a good time doing it, and all the stars kind of aligned that day. But I do think it comes second now to the Commonwealth Games last year. I genuinely do, although I didn't win. I got my own. Success to me was never defined, or last year was never going to be defined by a medal. It was purely just through experience and adversity and working through that, and just being ruthlessly devoted to myself for a period of time. And that to me probably tops it and sums up the way that I want to live my life and my career. It was probably about a week out from the Commie Games. I didn't think I was going to swim the two breast because I had taken an extended amount of time out the water during the season, and I wasn't training for a 200 breaststroke, and I was really, I genuinely wasn't fit enough, to be quite brutally honest. But I decided I was going to go for it. I would really kick myself if I didn't take the opportunity, and to come away with a bronze medal on the first night of that, it was just pure like just raw emotion. It meant everything to me to have a little bit of recognition for the sort of the hard work that went in. And it was there was a lot of like sort of mental torment that went on through that. There was so many injuries that came up to it. Because I'd taken the time out of the water, I was constantly plagued with an adductor injury. And then when I couldn't swim breaststroke from that, I was swimming fly. And then I put my neck out. So I was constantly sitting with a hot water bottle around my neck. And it was just like, I actually learned that I couldn't finish 100 fly max from a dive. So I went,
is it?
Yeah. I went into that Commie Games having probably had the single biggest embarrassment of my life when I when I got to 75 metres and 100 fly, choked on water and just about died. So yeah, it was a very, very humbling year, and to have that experience at the end of it, it just summed up how just turning up every day and never giving up really can make a difference and change your life.
That's a brilliant story. Final question then. It's about your career, but really it kind of also speaks to everything that we've talked about on this podcast. Is obviously there are peaks and troughs in any swimming career, in any career in any life, but did you feel that generally you got the best out of yourself?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did. There definitely is peaks and troughs, and there's always what ifs in your careers. And I think if you can go through your life with as little what ifs as possible, I think that's what's going to lead to the most fulfillment. Um, so I've had a couple of what ifs. I got glandular fever in 2014 and had an extended time out of the water while I was recovering from that. And my gut feeling was I never really felt like the same athlete ever after that. I don't know if there's anything in that, whether I'm being dramatic or what it is, but that's something that I'll need to live with for the rest of my life. Thinking off the back of 2014, I did that, and then this happened to me, and I never really got back there. It was like what happened through that phase. Ultimately, I'll never know. And that sort of what if lives with you, but it won't ever define me. The what if, you always need to work through that. So there is peaks and troughs in anything, and there's another quote that sort of, I can't remember exactly who said it again. I'm quite poor for that, remember the name of things. Generally, I keep the information that I need in the name of the person. That the citation doesn't doesn't stay with me. But the quote was, "It'll pass," and sort of trying to live by that. And I guess it comes back to what you were saying earlier. The bad times, they'll pass, but the good times will also pass as well. And
Absolutely.
it's kind of trying to have that sort of stoic mentality that good times and bad times will pass, and it's that consistency and the constant turning up regardless of the adversity, regardless of the success, and just being ruthlessly devoted to your routine, to yourself every single day. That is ultimately what's going to bring you the most fulfillment. And there will be times that are hard, and it's just sticking to your guns and doing what you have to be better that day. And I think that's the time that's going to be where the most growth comes from.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today, Ross. It was great speaking to you. Congratulations on what was obviously a fantastic career, and I wish you all the best with Murdoch Coaching. I'm sure it's going to be a great one. If there's anything that I can do to help, obviously let me know. And yeah, all the best.
Thanks very much, Joe. Appreciate it.
Cheers.